like to bring on, without further ado, Minister Louis Farrakhan Muhammad.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, we thank Allah over and over again for blessing us with our beloved leader, teacher, and divine guide, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, here at the Final Call building, those of you listening by radio throughout the city of Chicago, and those who may be listening via telephone hookup in many cities across the country, with the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, once again, it is my great pleasure and privilege to have this opportunity to be before these microphones once again. We are just returning from what we would call a very triumphant message and meeting in the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C. Though they said that Brother Farrakhan does not have but about 10,000 people with him in the United States, we are very happy to say that in the largest auditorium in the city of Washington, D.C., the D.C. Convention Center, on a Monday night, we packed that arena from stem to stern with nearly 11,000 people in attendance. And we thank Allah for blessing us. We were overwhelmingly received with a police escort into the city and out of the city, and they remained by my door at night to see that I slept well. And we are deeply appreciative to Mayor Marion Barry and to the Metropolitan Police in Washington, D.C. for their concern and for their help. Needless to say, the nearly 11,000 people in the D.C. Convention Center were overwhelmed with what we had to say, and of course they overwhelmingly support the power concept and the power program. Today I would like to quickly touch upon some of the major points of that address. Much of that address I could not really give because the time just was not sufficient. Before we get into our lecture today, I would like to send a very special greeting to Prince Asiel Ben Israel and all of the members of the Hebrew Israelite nation, and to urge them to stand strong and firm and tall. For this is the hour that the wicked shall accuse the righteous. As it is written in the scriptures, that the accuser of our brethren, who accused them night and day before the throne, is cast down. None of us who are members of the righteous, who try to do righteously, will get credit for our righteousness in a world of evil. And no good man or no group of people who are committed to good for black people will escape being charged falsely, imprisoned, beaten, and even killed for the sake of the truth. But the Quran teaches us that we should give good news to those who are patient and steadfast under trials. Our prayers are with Prince Asiel Ben Israel, who is confined at this moment, and by the grace of Almighty God Allah, we believe that he shall be walking freely within a matter of hours, if not in days. And by the grace of Almighty God, the brothers and sisters of the Hebrew Israelite nation instead of buckling under the trial, will become stronger with each passing day, knowing that the righteousness of our cause is sufficient to sustain us as it sustained the prophets and those before us. You must remember again that Jesus said, "Blessed are you when men shall revile you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my name's sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Great is your reward in heaven, for so did they the prophets that were before you." And if we are in a role of fulfilling the work and prophecies of the prophets of old, we cannot escape being evil spoken of. We cannot escape being falsely accused. We cannot escape being imprisoned, nor can we escape even being put to death for righteousness' sake. But our joy is in knowing that this is the end of the wicked. This is the end of their power to accuse and to abuse the righteous. So let the righteous know that even though you are persecuted, you are not forsaken. For Almighty God, Allah, is with you, and He is championing your defense. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me that no black man is guilty. Allah has declared us to be the righteous, and He has come to defend our righteousness. And even though we may have committed some offense, even up to and including murder, nevertheless, Allah says we are the righteous. And were we left alone in a righteous habitat, in a righteous environment, we would never be guilty of anything other than righteousness. But it is because we were born in sin and shaped after the iniquity of an iniquitous world and an iniquitous people that we are now guilty of iniquity. So let the wicked charge us. Let the wicked try us. Let the wicked be satisfied that they are judging us. But a supreme judge is judging today. And America as a kingdom has been weighed in the balance and has been found wanting. And now to my subject. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has said to us that 85% of the people of the earth are uncivilized people, meaning they don't have the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement, and the pursuit of happiness. They are in a savage state, having not the knowledge of self and living the life of a beast. This is to teach us that 85% of the human family of the planet Earth are living a life that is lower than the expected level of life of the divine supreme being. And because this is so, then the prophet's work of reform and redemption and salvation is almost nil in the world. Jesus said, "I am the light of the world." If we follow Jesus, then there cannot be any darkness in our being. However, darkness pervades the Christian world. What happened to the light of the world? The Christian world is bathed in uncivilized or savage behavior. So is the Muslim world. So is the Jewish world. So is the Buddhist and Hindu world. The whole world of man is suffering now because 85% of the people are uncivilized. They are poison animal eaters. The poison animal here refers to the swine, which is called in Arabic khanzir, which means I see it foul and very foul. The pig is a foul animal. When you eat the pig, its own flesh becomes a part of your flesh, and the worms of that filthy animal become a part of your being, eating its way into the muscles and into the spinal cord, traveling up the spinal cord into the brain, sounding the mental power, and even robbing the people of their beauty appearance. So when a person is uncivilized, they don't know the proper foods to eat, and therefore they dine on a delicacy of the Western world in its rebellion against Almighty God. The pig. Anyone calls you a pig, they are calling you a dirty name, and you would smack their face. But you will turn around and eat the pig, and if they say that man is what he eats, then maybe they're not so far wrong. A poison animal eater is a slave from mental death and power. Most of the 85%, whether they are white or black, red, yellow, or brown, are people who are slaves from mental death and power. Not only have they been eating a poison animal, but they eat mentally poison doctrine. They are people who do not know the true God or their origin in the world, and they worship that which they know not. And they are easily led in the wrong direction, but also hard to be led in the right direction. This is the masses of the people, white or black, red, yellow, or brown. The masses of the people of earth have suffered and are suffering mental death and a death of powerlessness. So if this is so, then the work of the prophets is undone. Why? Because those who were entrusted with the work have not been successful in civilizing the people, in raising the people up, in making the people aware of their mental life and giving the people that which would give them power over their own lives and their own destiny. So then, Jesus is correct. If the vineyard has been let out into the hands of wicked husbandmen, and these husbandmen have not brought in the fruits thereof, then the vineyard should be taken from them and given to another. This is all we're saying to the Jews and to the world. You have had control of the vineyard, and you have not brought in the fruit thereof. Fruit thereof means that you would use the wisdom taught to you by Moses and the prophets to civilize the people and give them a life that makes them masters of their own destiny. However, instead of your bringing in the fruits thereof, you have eaten the fruits thereof and given the people a false religious doctrine. Consequently, the people are now enslaved by false religious concepts. This is in Islam, this is in Christianity, this is among the Jews. The masses of the world are suffering, groaning under wicked religious leadership, wicked political leadership. The 85%. This doesn't deal with color. You are black, but you are a mental slave. You are mentally dead and powerless. And there are many whites who are in this condition, Indians in this condition, red people, brown people, yellow people in this condition, and a handful of people are ruling and dominating the whole planet. And the wealth of the planet is not in the hands of the masses of the people, but in the hands of a few people whom we call the bloodsuckers of the poor. Who is this 10%? They are the rich, the DuPonts, the Fords, the Arm & Hammers, the rich, who are the bloodsuckers of the poor, who teach the poor lies, who teach the poor to believe that the true and living God is a spook, who cannot be seen by the naked eye. And they make themselves rich from the labor of the poor. They are also known as the slave makers of the poor. Daniel in his vision talked about a head of gold and a breast of silver, and the feet of iron mixed with miry clay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us that whenever you have an image like that, it is telling you that the head, the nations of the earth, the rulers are rich with gold, but their support is weak, for their support is iron mixed with miry clay. The support of all of the Western nations is the poor. It is the poor that support America. It is the poor that support England and France. It is the poor that support Russia and China and all of the nations of the earth. But how are the poor treated? The poor are made into slaves by those who teach lies. They don't teach the law of cause and effect. They make the people believe when they see it rain that a spook is producing it. But the rain is real. How then can the cause be unreal? You are witnessing conditions in the world that are produced by real men, but you don't see the real cause of the effect of your own suffering. Because the bloodsuckers of the poor make you think that God is some mystery God. Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us that there is 5% who are the poor righteous teachers, who don't believe the teaching of lies of the 10%, but this 5% are all wise and know who the true and living God is, and they teach that the true and living God is the Son of Man, the supreme being, the black man of Asia. They're also known as civilized people, Muslims and Muslim sons. Here is a small percentage of people who know God, and when they know God, they have a duty, and that duty is to teach what you know to those who do not know. Then those of us who are in pursuit of that duty have 10%, the rich, the bloodsuckers of the poor, the slave makers of the poor. They hate the 5%. They have control over 85%. So they turn the 85% against the righteous teacher. This is how they've been able to kill the prophets, kill their communities, because the leaders who are the bloodsuckers of the poor have control over the minds of the masses, and they feed the masses more lies about a righteous teacher, so that the righteous teacher will be persecuted by the 10%, not helped by the 85%, so that they can kill the righteous teacher. But a new thing is happening today. A new thing is happening today. When I was in Washington, D.C., out in front of me were the 85%. I had none of the 10% sitting behind me on the rostrum. I'm too hot for them to come out and sit with me. So the leaders were listening from their comfortable positions. What did Farrakhan say tonight? What are you afraid of? You're afraid that the masses are rising today. The masses, white, brown, red, yellow, and black, are to be told the truth. And when the masses are told the truth, they will be free from the web of lies of the 10% who have made slaves of the poor and who are the bloodsuckers of the poor. And the number one bloodsucker of the poor today is the United States government of America. And today, I must stand up and teach the whole country of the wickedness of this government, that you may know the truth and be free and make a better government and a better order and a better world. Otherwise, the whole of America is going down to death and destruction, for your kingdom has been weighed in the balance, and it is found wanting. In the Quran, in the 103rd surah, called Al-Asr, the time, it reads, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the time. Surely man is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patience. In the Muslim world, we say 5 prayers a day. The prayer called Asr, Salatul Asr, is a prayer that takes place between the Zuhr prayer at 12 o'clock or noon or around that time, and the Maghrib prayer, which is the sunset prayer. This prayer of Asr is a prayer that falls in the afternoon, sometime between 3 and 4 o'clock. The sun is yet in its zenith, but it is in a decline. God revealed this surah to Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace be upon him, as a sign to the world that when Muhammad came into the world was in its decline. In its decline means that the zenith of your power, you still have it, but your light or the light of your civilization is going down now. And if you don't make the corrective steps now, soon sunset will approach. And when the sun sets on your world, then you have no more power to correct the wrong and make a better day for yourself and your children tomorrow. So when Almighty God sees your sun in its decline, never will God allow the sun to set on you without a warner coming up from among you to warn you of what is producing your decline, that perhaps you may return to a right path and correct yourself before the sun sets on your world. And so these men that God raises up are called warners or apostles or prophets or messengers. And since we are not in the time of prophets anymore, we've passed out of the time of prophets, then we look for warners and apostles of Almighty God who will warn the people that the afternoon sun is here. America, you are in your zenith, but your zenith now is beginning a decline. And a warner comes up from among you to warn you while there's yet time, for the sun sets very fast between Asr and Maghrib. There's only 4 short hours, and then the sun is seen on the western horizon going out of sight with a redness in the sky that resembles fire. And this is to teach you, white America, that your decline is here. It is not to come. You are in your decline right now. Your civilization is falling and the light of your civilization is going out. And soon on the horizon, you will see the fire of the setting sun of your world. Oh, would that you would listen. When I was in Washington, D.C. on the 1st of May, I warned the United States government, in particular Jews in general and black folk, that if you don't like Louis Farrakhan, it's better that you leave me alone, because I'm not before you of myself, and you will know that when you come against me. No, I want you to listen, and listen very carefully, because when Almighty God backs a man, the elements of time and nature are put into display to prove that he backs that man. I told you on May the 1st that within 30 days, Almighty God would make a show in nature, unusual, to tell you, America, that he's with me and with those who are with me. That if you would be wise, you would be best to back off of me. As your Bible teaches you, kiss the Son, lest he be angry with you, and you will not tarry just a little while. That is not referring to somebody back there 2,000 years ago. It's talking about somebody up here today, and I'm very proud to tell you, and very humble to tell you, I am that son, and I'm awaiting your kiss. After I said what I said, I flew off to the Middle East. the locusts began to attack. It was the worst attack of locusts since 1885. There were 86 tornadoes in the month of May, deadly tornadoes. On the 30th day, as I was preparing to come back, tornadoes hit Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and even went up into Canada, devastating cities and towns, pardon me, killing people and destroying tremendous property. You dropped a bomb on the people of Move in Philadelphia, and God allowed 29 counties out of 62 counties in Florida to be set ablaze. Some of those fires are still burning. The damage was over $400 million. And now 12 states in the far west are on fire and still burning, and the damage has gone up into the billions of dollars. Hail fell out of the sky the size of of softballs. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you saw nothing yet, for hail will fall out of the sky the size of blocks of ice, tearing down the roofs of your houses, killing your cattle, destroying your cars, and hitting you and destroying you too. Death and destruction is on the way. Your kingdom has been weighed in the balance. I am not your enemy, America. I am your friend. But if you refuse to hear the friendly voice of warning, then you shall feel the fire of the setting sun of the reality of your world. A new reality is on the way in. Fear not, righteous. Fear not. Allah is present. I warned America in Washington, D.C., that what the poor American people are beginning to see, people holding Americans hostage throughout the world. This is not happening in a vacuum. People are not angry with America for nothing. They are holding innocent people hostage, not for what the innocent have done, but for the policies of a guilty government of the United States. Foreign policy of the United States is a reflection of her domestic policy. What is her military policy? What is her trade and monetary policy? What is her aid policy? What is her cultural and political policies? And if you look on the inside of the United States of America, militarily, the communities of black people are set upon by vicious police, police who do not love us. We are a difficult people to love. We have turned to lives of crime, and we are feeding on ourselves so they can feed on us without any fear of any retribution. Trade and monetary policies internally and domestically is that we are not trading anymore. We're not producing anything to trade on the inside of America. Monetarily, everything is being cut back to the black community, to the Indian community, to the Hispanic community. We are seeing that foreign policy is not always determined by government officials, but oftentimes foreign policy is determined by bankers, by business leaders, by multinational corporations, by powerful Zionist lobbies or Jewish lobbies or other lobbies. Look at America's policy toward the Indians. It is a trail of broken treaties, one treaty after another broken between the United States government and the American Indian. The Bible says a devil is he who promises what he fails to deliver. A treaty is a promise. And every treaty that America made with the American Indians, she has broken that treaty. It is apparent to all of us that have eyes to see that America's policy toward the Indians is genocide, killing off the Indians. And now, by a streak of divine fate, if you will, the Indian reservations are the last deposits of oil, uranium, coal, gold, And so America today is no better than her fathers who ran the Indians off their land, killed them, gave them disease blankets, wiped them out for the sake of taking the land. And today in 1985, they're doing the same thing to the Indians again. They're trying to take away the sacred Black Hills of the Indians in South Dakota. And on the Navajo and Hopi reservation in Arizona, Carter signed a policy that the Indians have to leave. Reagan completed it, saying that the Indians have to get out of their own land by July 1986, or they'll bring the army in and move the Indians out. I say to America, your days of moving dark people off the land is over. I say to you, and I warn you in the name of Allah, if you make a move on the Indians to take away from the Indians what rightly and justly belongs to them, God will take the whole country away from you and give it to whom he pleases. I am warning you, America, God is present today. You little stew pigeons, paid agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, you don't have to pay the stool on us. I'm sending it out over the radio so that they can listen downtown and in Washington and all over America. Your kingdom has been weighed in the balance. Your kingdom has been weighed in the balance and you are found wanting. I warn you today that the black and the red are now one nation. We are one as we were in the beginning. And the God that I represent, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, has bidden me to warn the government of America that anything that you do against the red man today, he himself personally will answer it with the power that is bound up in the heavens and in the earth. Take it or let it alone. The Indians and the blacks are one. And we shall continue to forge a strategic alliance between ourselves and the red man. For the red man is the original man, and we are the original people. Well, how could you be original black and he's original red? One day I will teach you how we both are the same people. It's just 50,000 years ago something happened that made us as we are. But we'll get into that at another time, at another place, under another condition. But America must know that her kingdom has been weighed in the balance and has been found wanting. Her policies of taking the little man, breaking the little man up from business, running the little man out of business so that the multinational corporations can feed on him. There in New York City and there in Washington, D.C., organized vendors who have their little business establishments out on the street corners are being run off the corner by the merchants. But the Jews don't seem to remember that in the turn of the century, they were the vendors. They were the merchants. And the established merchants tried to run the Jews off the corner. But the Jews organized. And now today, it is shameful to see after the Jews suffered so much from the hands of those established merchants that they have become established merchants to persecute the little man. This is a part of America's foreign policy. For just recently, America sent a shameful document to Japan telling the Japanese that the Japanese have to find a way to stop protecting their small mom and pop stores. Think about that. America is telling the Japanese, relax your laws that protect the small businessman and allow more of this, supermarket style business. They want the Japanese to have more leisure time so that America can sell them more leisure things. Maybe you want to introduce cocaine there. Maybe you want to introduce what you've introduced to us and to the Indians. Maybe you want them to be sacked out on sake. Well, your kingdom has been weighed in the balance and the Japanese are not going for it. And the small merchants in America, the black ones, are not going to go for it. For under power, people organized and working for economic rebirth, we intend to unite all the vendors. We must fight for our own today. Otherwise, what little we have will be taken away. Think about it. America has $12.6 billion in foreign aid. And out of the $12.6 billion in foreign aid, $4.5 billion was sent to Israel, a country of 3.5 million people. Egypt has 40 million people. They get $2.1 billion. What does this mean? This means that the powerful Jewish lobby has absolutely gotten from America $4.6 billion of the taxpayers' money. But the taxpayers didn't vote on this. The taxpayers didn't say it's all right. The taxpayers' money is given away to further the expansionist policy of Israel, for Israel is now the vanguard of imperialism in the Middle East. Oh, it's a shame. Two countries get over half of the foreign aid, and all the rest goes to the rest of the world. The United States, through the IMF, International Monetary Fund. Of course, the boys on the corner may have another name for it. The United States, through the IMF and the World Bank, are supporters of neo-colonialism. They set up puppet dictators, and they gain financial control over African, Asian, and Latin American countries. They go in under the guise of debt. The foreign nations need money. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund goes in, then becomes their advisors, telling them to devalue their currency, while the American dollar is riding high but needs to be devalued. They freeze the wages. They lay off the people. They lower export tariffs. They have domestic cuts in such a degree where the people rise up, as they're doing now in Jamaica and in other islands of the Caribbean. When the people rise up, then America says you need to increase more military spending, so that poor little country has to buy more weapons. And who are the weapons merchants? It is the United States of America, the Soviet Union, or Israel. Oh, it's a terrible thing. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania has admitted that the country is in bad shape, and what put it in bad shape is not necessarily socialism, but it is the International Monetary Fund and the guidelines laid down by them when a black country borrows money. So today, there's an $850 billion debt in the third world. Some of the third world countries cannot even pay the interest on the foreign debt. This is a shame. So in some of the countries, nearly 65% of their foreign exchange is used to pay interest. So it is permanent slavery and neo-colonialism. And all of this is controlled by 9 big banks of the United States of America. This is why, brothers and sisters, you see people rising up all over the world against America. America is lying to their people when she says we must make the world safe for democracy. America hasn't been thinking about real democracy for a long, long time. America wants you to join the army and to fight her wars so that the multinational corporations, the rich, bloodsuckers of the poor, the slave makers of the poor, can continue to live in luxury at your expense. This is why there are no jobs for you, black man, so that as a young man you are forced either into a life of crime or to join the United States Army, Marine, or Navy, or some branch of the service. When you go, you think, well, this is your best way to make a contribution to yourself and your family. But you don't realize that as you join the army, you are becoming an instrument of America's foreign policy. Foreign policy that is not made oftentimes by the State Department, but is made in the boardrooms of corporate America, who have interests that America calls vital interests, but they're not vital interests to a democracy. They're vital interests to the multinational corporations who are the bloodsuckers of the poor of the earth. And this is not rhetoric. Some of you sitting here listening to me or out there listening to me say, oh, Farrakhan, you are spouting the communist line. Brother and sister, you're a fool. That's not a communist line. That is the absolute truth, and I'd like to read to you what white folks in the government say about their own government. Then you tell me, are they communists or are they Americans? This is from Harper's Magazine. Should the United States fight secret wars? It was a committee, panel hearing on this subject held by Daniel Patrick Moynihan. You know Patrick. He's the senator from New York. On this panel was a man named Mr. Ralph McGahee. Mr. Ralph McGahee served 25 years in the CIA. He was stationed in Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, the Philippines, and Vietnam. He worked as a case officer on covert operations, as a liaison officer with foreign police and intelligence agencies, and as an intelligence analyst. He is the author of a book titled Deadly Deceits, My 25 Years in the CIA. And I would like to call Mr. Ralph McGahee to the witness stand. Now, Mr. McGahee, what is it that you say about America's foreign policy? And this is what Mr. McGahee writes in Harper Magazine. He said, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I believe that CIA covert operations, whether paramilitary or not, have helped to destroy democracy around the world. By means, listen carefully, by means of these operations, the CIA has replaced popular governments with brutal, murderous, US-controlled military dictatorships that torture and kill their own citizens. Whether they involve paramilitary actions, political interventions, propaganda campaigns, or other kinds of deception, covert operations are all designed to benefit the US-based multinational corporations that expropriate or take out the national resources of so-called target countries. These operations hurt the indigenous peoples and eventually the Americans themselves. The disastrous Vietnam War began as a CIA covert operation. He says, you mentioned the Bay of Pigs invasion, which set the stage for the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Bay of Pigs, I'm deviating now from his script. The Bay of Pigs was after they decided to assassinate Fidel Castro and they were unsuccessful. They decided to train those who did not like Castro's regime, arm them and send them to invade Cuba. And the Cubans whipped their backsides and killed them on Cuban soil. And then it was known as the Bay of Pigs disaster for Bobby Kennedy and for John Fitzgerald Kennedy, but it was a CIA operation. Now you wonder why Cuban people, many of them, don't like Reagan? Another less well-known CIA intervention was the overthrow of the Sukarno government in Indonesia in 1966, which was preceded by the murder of 500,000 Indonesians. Now, this is the government of America doing this. They are responsible for the murder of over 500,000 Indonesians just to get Sukarno out of power. Earlier in this document, they mention how when the Belgians were pulling out of the Congolese people popularly elected Patrice Lumumba as its leader. It was a democratic thing. But America decided in Washington that they did not want Patrice Lumumba. Why? Patrice Lumumba was a black man for the black people, and he would have turned the wealth of the Congo into the hands of the Congolese people, and America wanted that wealth. The Belgians wanted that wealth. The French wanted that wealth. So they plotted to assassinate the leader of the people, and the United States government was responsible for the murder of Patrice Lumumba. This is why America has been weighed in the balance and is found wanting. You, the American people, do not know what your government is doing, but it is time that you open your eyes, for the government is leading the people to destruction. Mr. McGahey goes on. The United States cannot continue to destroy freedom throughout the world by means of covert operations without ultimately destroying freedom at home. Covert operations violate the rights of all Americans. They allow the president to take actions abroad that the American people would never support. And by imposing strict rules of secrecy, the president threatens the constitutionally guaranteed freedoms of the American people. The CIA covert operations are an immediate threat both to the peoples of other nations and to our own way of life. Now, this is an American who worked for the CIA. Now, beloved brothers and sisters, I would like to read to you in the closing minutes of this broadcast something that appeared in Harper's Magazine again in 1984. These are things that you will never read. They will never be printed in the Daily News or the Tribune or any of the dirt sheets that most black folk feed on or the masses of white folk feed on. It won't be printed in the Time magazine or in Newsweek or in U.S. News and World Report. But here's a rundown of some of the CIA operations, and let me read to you just a few of the things that our government has been involved in. In 1963, there was an attempt to assassinate Fidel Castro. It was unsuccessful. In 1963, they organized a military coup to overthrow the government of Juan Bosch, and it was successful. In South Vietnam in 1963, they precipitated the conditions leading to the assassination of Ngo Dinh Diem, the leader of South Vietnam. They were successful in assassinating him. They overthrew the government of Carlos Julio Arosemena in Ecuador. In Iraq, they provided financial and military assistance to Mustafa Barzani to establish an independent Kurdistan. Unsuccessful. In Chile, they provided $20 million to Eduardo Frei to defeat Salvador Allende in elections in 1964. In Uruguay, Peru, Brazil, and the Dominican Republic, they trained police and intelligence personnel in assassination and interrogation techniques to help defeat the opposition in all of these countries. This is America. In the Congo, in '64, they provided financial and military assistance to defeat the rebel forces loyal to Patrice Lumumba, and they assassinated Patrice Lumumba. In South Vietnam, in 1964, the CIA attempted to eliminate Viet Cong political infrastructure through more than 20,000 assassinations. This is done by the government. Now they're going to try you for murder, try you for robbery, try you for any kind of thing. But who's going to try America for her evil? I say God is present, he is on scene, and he is judging America today. In 1965, organized propaganda campaign to overthrow Sukarno government, to precipitate the conditions leading to the massacre of more than 500,000 communists. In 1967, in Bolivia, they assisted in the capture and the murder of Ernesto Che Guevara, the revolutionary. In Greece, they aided in the overthrow of the government of George Papandreou, and they installed the military government of Colonel George Papadopoulos after the abdication of King Constantine. Not only do they work in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, but they will overthrow governments in Europe if they can, if those governments are not to the liking of the United States government. And this is what you're fighting for. This is when they put a rifle in your hand and send you somewhere to fight. You better be knowing, black man, you're not fighting for no democracy. You're fighting for the rich to keep you in a hell of a poor state. And I warn you, black man, there won't be any tolerance of you overseas fighting for this imperialist kind of government. And I say this to the white people of America and to the white mothers of America. You should keep your babies at home until America has a genuine war where America's democracy is really threatened, then fight. But until then, make them prove it's worthy of your sons to give their lives and come home maimed and ruined for the rest of their days, that the rich bloodsuckers of the poor and slave makers of the poor may continue their treachery and their evil deceit. In 1970 in Chile, they organized a campaign of assassination, propaganda, strikes, and demonstrations, which led to the overthrow of the government of Salvador Allende and to his murder. Even down in Jamaica, I'm skipping, they tried in 1976 to organize a military coup to overthrow Michael Manley. In 1976, they supported attempts to assassinate Michael Manley on 3 different occasions. The little man who led Jamaica, who spoke at Savior's Day, was such a threat to our government that they attempted 3 times to assassinate the man in 1976. So later, they found a way to get rid of him through riots in the street over food when they cut off assistance to Jamaica. This is America. Look at that black woman, Eugenia Charles, that stood beside the president and said she is the one that called on American troops to invade Grenada. Do you remember her? Well, look at what this book says here. In Dominica, the CIA provided financial support to Eugenia Charles in her bid to defeat Oliver Serafin in Dominica elections. They put her in office, so when they called on her to lie and say that they needed troops in Grenada, she was there to back them up. This is America. This is the government. This is these flag-waving hypocrites that walk around saying they love America. Here in 1980, the CIA encouraged the assassination of opposition leader Walter Rodney. Our own black brother was blown up in a car by the CIA. How in the hell can I advise black people to fight for a government like this? Why should I shrink from my duty and be afraid that you will arrest me and charge me with sedition? Then come now and arrest Louis Farrakhan, for I say no black man should fight for America. No white boy should fight for America. None of them should fight for America until you have a government that represents the will of the people, the good of the people. And if I'm wrong, then I don't need to be right. For this wrong
is so right till some of you will say, Farrakhan, you're a bold, crazy Negro. It's love that makes me bold. I am in love with you, black brother and sister. Oh, America, America, in my conclusion, I say to you, your kingdom has been weighed in the balance, and it has been found wanting. Surely man is at loss. The energy level of the sun of your world is going down, and the sun is setting on your world. You have time, America. Turn it around. You can't turn it around by accusing me and bringing me before the courts and trying to assassinate me. Though I'm born to die, so are you. And I want to serve notice on you. You can't kill me. All you can do is send my flesh back to the earth. But the power that makes my tongue move is a power that you have no control over. That's a power that you can't frighten. That's a power you can't shut up. That's a power you can't imprison. That's the power and the spirit of Almighty God. Would that there were only 10 more preachers in America that had my courage. 10 more preachers like this would have all of America free. Free from lies, free from deceit, free from a government that has abused the poor, free indeed to make a better America and a better world. So, beloved, black brothers and sisters, cry not for me, and weep not for me, and fear not for me. Fear for America. Fear for the leaders of America. Fear for the bloodsuckers of the poor and the slave makers of the poor. For the poor righteous teachers shall continue to teach. They shall continue to shout from the highest mountain in the valley that our time has come. Black man and woman, arise and shine, for your light is come. The light of God is dawning upon you, for you to rise up now and shed the shackles of slavery and inferiority and stand up and shed the iniquity of this iniquitous world and begin a new world order. Your time has come. Your hour has arrived. May Allah bless and keep you as I greet you in peace in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.